Senator from Vermont and a member of the Senate Budget Committee. Well, Senator Sanders, here we are in the precipice of a government shutdown, and we have been gifted an opportunity to return to regular order in the budget. You must be very happy.
No doubt. Look, Chris, I was surprised that Congress today received a 10% favorability rating. Surprised that it was that high. Look, the American people are profoundly disgusted. And what they're disgusted about is this country faces enormous problems, as you well know. Middle class disappearing, poverty at an all-time high, the gap between the very, very rich and everybody else going wider, unemployment, real unemployment, 14%. And here you have a handful of right-wing extremists who are trying to do away with the election results of a year ago. They haven't quite caught on that Obama won by 5 million votes. They lost 2 seats in the Senate. They lost some seats in the House. And they say, oh, that really doesn't matter. We are going to do what we want to do. And if we can't do it, you know what? Tough luck to millions of Americans who need government services. Tough luck to 800,000 federal employees who are trying to support their families. That is an absolute outrage, and it's a precedent for blackmail that we cannot allow to happen.
You know, Senator, you had a long and illustrious career in the House of Representatives before moving over to the U.S. Senate, and I think both in the House and the Senate, you're someone who has a very strong worldview and vision and believes very deeply in a number of things that aren't necessarily the kinds of things that, people across the aisle believed in. I think you're very progressive voice. Probably if you were to map it out, you'd be at one end of the bell curve of that. Did it ever occur to you as a sitting House member to pull off these kinds of tactics? I mean, is this the kind of thing that you trying to get a progressive vision implemented would have ever attempted to do?
No, I mean, look, I'm an advocate of a single-payer national health care system. It never occurred to me to bring down the United States government and cause pain for millions of workers because I can't get my way, knowing that my view is in the minority. The job when you're in the minority is try to become the majority. That's the kind of the democratic system that we grew up in. It's not to hold the country hostage.
Now we're going to go into a shutdown. I think you've been through some shutdowns before. I believe you were in Congress during the last shutdown.
Yep.
What is your anticipation for how this is going to play out in the days ahead? And one of the questions I have for you is there's a conventional wisdom that the public will blame Republicans and that will bring pressure on the Republicans. But given the fact that so much of that House caucus is insulated from an electorate because of gerrymandering, because of the nature of their district, are you confident that pressure is going to play out in the way people are predicting?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with how those of us in the Democratic caucus, I'm an independent, play this out. I think it's just enormously important that American people, by the way, Chris, understand that this debate is not just about Obamacare. What this debate is about is the Koch brothers' dream of repealing virtually every major piece of legislation passed in the last 80 years. And if we can make the American people understand that it's not just Obamacare. Right. These guys want to abolish the minimum wage. Right. They want to end Social Security. They want to do away with Medicare as we know it. This is an extreme right-wing agenda. And if they get away with what they're trying to do now, in 2 weeks they'll be back with the debt ceiling, threatening the financial stability of the entire world unless they get more. So I think what has to happen tonight and in the coming week is the majority in the Congress has got to stand up. That is the Senate. The president has got to be strong, and the American people have got to be strong and explain to a minority here in Washington they cannot dictate policy.
Very important point from Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont on the precedent that would be set here. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
We'll be keeping an eye on Shutdown Cam. We'll bring you any developments from the Capitol as we are minutes away from the shutdown deadline. Before that, a quick note.